You're locked in listening to Sister Izzy on the Beat, man. Join me each and every Tuesday, 1 o'clock p.m. Caribbean time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock UK and Nigeria, via YouTube and Facebook at Sis Izzy Thomas. See you there.
Saw it down in Fort Myers today. People are wanting to go out and look at the damage. For every car that's going down a street, that's preventing a power line crew from getting in there and working. It's preventing a search and rescue crew from getting in there and working. Please stay outside these areas so that we can get in there. Power outages are being restored. The governor read through a laundry list of individuals that are having power restored. We did hear a question earlier today about, well, it's still 2.6 million. It was 2.6 million this morning. Jacksonville has been hit. We have power outages in Duval County, St. Johns County, Nassau County, Baker County. So those are going to offset here for a little while. FPL, the Municipal Electric Association, and its municipal electric partners, the cooperative electric programs are getting their stuff turned back on. Please be patient. We have every faith and trust in them to restore the power. However, in places where we're going to have to rebuild infrastructure, that's going to take longer, as the governor mentioned. Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, Pine Island, that's going to take some time. In those areas, we do have some other challenges. There's potentially vehicles in the water. There are potentially boats in the water. There is potentially debris in the water. We will be working with our federal partners to mission assign or ask or request a mission assign special resources to go in there and start looking under the water to do an underwater survey to ensure that we can actually get the necessary barges and heavy equipment into those areas to respond effectively. I think this is an appropriate time to say, Gracia, thank you very much for all your assistance. Admiral McPherson as well as the TAG, General Eifert, has been with me since day one, sitting here. He was there at 0700, which means he had to leave St. Augustine at 04 something. Thank you very much. We continue to mobilize additional resources to impacted areas. Specifically today, we did more than 400 bottles of oxygen, 100 ambulances, an additional 120 utility trucks, 4 mobile triage units. These are specific units to help triage patients if somebody becomes injured. We do have hospitals that have some issues and cannot intake patients. So this is the ability to triage individuals for that. 60 truckloads of water, 40 truckloads of meals, 40 truckloads of ice. That was a question earlier a couple of days ago. We have brought in additional pet foods, supplies for displaced pets, 5 truckloads of blankets, 5 truckloads of cots, and I believe this was requested earlier by someone, nearly 100,000 tarps. FDM recovery staff are now beginning the process of rapid damage assessments in the impacted counties to expedite all available federal assistance for the disaster recovery. The governor mentioned earlier that additional counties have been added to the Category A debris removal expedited declaration and IA, or individual assistance. Those counties are Orange, Osceola, Seminole, and Polk. Again, these counties are available for 30 days at 100% in federal assistance. I am going to turn to Gracia and ask, what is that website that we need to direct everyone to for mobile intake?
For registration. For survivors, it is disasterassistance.org. Disasterassistance.org.
So again, we're proud that 8,700 people have already done that, and we want to continue to do as much as we can via web registration. Again, Governor, First Lady, thank you so much for your leadership today.
Okay, First Lady.
All right. Well, flying over the devastation and destruction firsthand, all I can say is, our hearts and our prayers are with so many people who are suffering, which is why about 24 hours ago, we launched the Disaster Relief Fund. And I'm happy to say that after 24 hours, we have raised more than $10 million into that fund. And if you remember this morning, just at 8 a.m., we came out here and we talked with you. I think it was at 1.6 million. So now we're over $10 million. So I just want to say thank you to all of the great Floridians who stepped up to support our efforts and all of the people across the country who are helping Floridians. Thank you. We are going to make a big difference to help get resources immediately to those people who need them most. Amazon, we want to thank them, Centene, Ian McKetney, Florida Blue, Lanier, Walmart, we'll be hearing from them in just a second, donated $1 million, Boeing, Publix, Simply Healthcare, Airbnb, Tico Energy, Wells Fargo, Verizon, CVS, Duke Energy, Goldman Sachs, Rumble, Florida Power and Light, National Christian Foundation, the PGA Tour, and Horn, just to name a few. And that doesn't even go into all of the donations that came in from people who are giving $5 and $10. And thank you so much for what you're doing. Also want to say thank you to Tom Brady, who put on his website a special shout out to the defense or to our fund, the Florida Disaster Fund, that got a lot of attention and raised a lot of money. So thank you for your support of your community. Also, thank you to Visa, Amex, PayPal, and Braintree. They are waiving their fees, so all of this money will go directly to servicing the people in need. And again, as the governor mentioned, one of the important things to understand about this fund and why it's so important is because we are getting needs instantaneously into the EOC, into the Emergency Operations Center. And so we're able then to communicate those needs to those nonprofits on the ground so we can meet them quickly. And so these funds make a big difference to help micro-target what we're seeing. And again, when we are flying over Lee County, and some of these areas that were just devastated, they are going to need things like foods and tarps and what have you. And so what is not being supplemented by the state, which is a lot, we will be able to do in the private sector. So again, to give the website, floridadisasterfund.org, and you can also text disaster to 20222. And God bless you and thank you for your support.
Okay. All right. Volunteer Florida, Josie Tamayo.
Good evening, everyone, and I want to thank you on behalf for being here. And first of all, I want to thank, the First Lady and the Governor for their leadership in this. And I must say it is a record amount of money that we have now received for the disaster fund. And I want to thank, obviously, our partners, our corporate partners. I will say to you, we have been on the phone calling people, and they have been giving to people in Florida specifically with needs. And we plan to make very good use of that money. And I want to thank each and every person that has reached out, called, and specifically for those in the storm's path that are now recovering. And so these funds will go for response and recovery. We will be doing that, looking at all of that very carefully. And I want to thank our corporate partners, specifically Walmart, who has, in fact, Ms. Moni Brown is on our foundation. And this fund is administered through our Volunteer Florida Foundation. So on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you all for being, specifically want to thank the First Lady for her leadership on this, and the Governor, and everyone who is called in need. And please, I want to tell you, if you want to volunteer, please go to our website at volunteerflorida.org. We have someone standing by that can connect you with nonprofits that are in need of volunteers, and also www.floridadisasterfund.org, or text disaster to 20222. And I will say there will be a banner at the FSU football game this weekend with our Florida Disaster Fund, and also USF has agreed to do that. And in my mind, I'm going to get every college team to do that in Florida as long as we need them. Thank you so much, and thank you, First Lady and Governor.
Okay, we're happy to have John Ferner, President and Chief Executive Officer of Walmart.
Good evening, and thank you, Governor and First Lady, for coming together today, and also for your team's quick response following just the devastation that we're seeing from the hurricane. So I'm proud to be with you here in Florida tonight, representing Walmart, to further discuss how Walmart will continue partnering with all of you and your team while we continue to respond to the devastation of the storm. Supporting communities is core to Walmart, and Florida is our community. Many of our associates, customers, and members all across Florida are feeling the effects of the extensive damage caused by this storm. And like all of you, we've been closely monitoring its track to ensure that we stay in tune with what our stores, our clubs, our supply chain teams need to be doing to serve before, during, and after the storm. So in preparation for the response and recovery, we've strategically placed things like generators, refrigerated trailers, merchandise, and additional personnel in the right locations to give us the best opportunity to resume operations as soon as it's safe to do so. We have 385 stores and clubs here in Florida, 9 distribution centers, and at one point today, 244 of those were closed. And we think over the next day or so, we'll have the majority of those back open and operating. So we've helped relocate associates living in mandatory evacuation zones, and we're carrying out wellness checks for those living in the other impacted areas. Now, throughout all of this, our thoughts and our prayers remain with those who are impacted, and we are moving quickly to help. To that end, on behalf of Walmart, Sam's Club, and the Walmart Foundation, I'm announcing our commitment of up to $6 million for recovery and relief efforts. And this level of support does include, First Lady now, a $1.5 million investment to support the Florida Disaster Fund, donations of essential supplies, and grants to local and national organizations who are here on the ground supporting relief efforts. Now, what we do know is Walmart customers, members, and our associates are the most general people that we know. And as part of this investment, we're also launching a national customer and member giving campaign at our stores and clubs, and an associate donation campaign through Walmart's associate giving program. And we understand our responsibility to the communities we serve, and we'll proudly work side by side with each and every one of you to ensure we're doing everything we can along with our first responders to restore our communities as quickly as possible. And this includes mobilizing resources and services to those people who need them. So as a company and as fellow Floridians, when our friends, our neighbors, and our loved ones need help, we will gladly step forward to support them. Thank you.
Okay, so we're very much monitoring the impacts that we're seeing in other parts of the state other than Southwest Florida, and I know Kevin is working on. We're going to obviously have a big response in Southwest Florida, but when you talk about FEMA, some of these other things, there's going to be a need to be response in some of these other parts of the state on an individual basis. And so I know he's working on that. And, we're going to be back down in all these areas and working hard to make sure that we can get people back on their feet. And with that, I'll take some questions.
I know that a lot of people are questioning what the casualty count is, and I know you addressed it, but is the state at least preparing for a large casualty situation, given what we heard from the Lee County Sheriff as well as the President earlier today?
Well, I mean, I think it's a massive storm. I mean, I think we anticipate casualties. I think Kevin made a good point about how many are going to happen from the time it hits on. We've stressed to try to minimize both, obviously, but we're now in the situation where there's going to be hazards out where people can be in harm's way still. Just because the storm has passed does not mean that there's not additional hazards. Operating things like generators, standing. Now, fortunately, I was looking, there wasn't as much standing water as I was anticipating. I think that the storm surge that they had feared in Charlotte, while they did get water, there was flooding. I don't think it was at quite the level that was initially feared. Obviously, in Lee, you had a massive storm surge at the barrier islands. You did have some on the mainland, but I saw the roads by and large clear. There were a couple roadways where I saw where there was water. So hopefully some of those hazards are minimized. I think if you look at the most significant storm in the history of Florida was Okeechobee in the 20s, and you guys can look it up. But I mean, I don't think we would be anywhere approaching that.
We've heard, just anecdotally from various local officials, the total would be about 16 people right now dead. You're not confirming that, but I'm wondering, as you're getting out to these barrier islands now, are you getting people off these islands? You are not finding massive numbers of dead people on these islands?
That is correct. I think but at the same time, they're going to see people that may be visibly in need or knocking on doors, and most of them are saying, I'm fine. If there's no answer, I don't know that they're going into those homes. Now, many of those homes are vacation homes and seasonal residents, so we'll see. Now, there are so what will be confirmed as storm related, that will happen, relatively soon. I can tell you that there have been some non-storm related fatalities as well. I mean, for example, in Charlotte County, they reported a suicide during the storm. They also had somebody pass away from a heart attack because you don't have access to emergency services for a certain period of time. And so that could have been somebody, that would have gone to the hospital. So there's a lot of those things. They're working through it, and we'll see. But I can say, I think, Kevin, there's not been in these rescue efforts, deceased people found as of yet. Now that may change, of course, as they do more, but they've been able to lift a lot of people out of those islands. And I know a lot of those people have been happy, but increasingly there are people who are happy that people are out there looking out for them, but say, thank you, we're good. I don't know that is necessarily, they're going to want to do that over the long term, because if there's structural damage for some of the underlying services, it's just going to take a little longer for the utilities to be able to get that up and running. But nevertheless, that's the posture a lot of them have taken.
Can you give us a sense, to that point, can you give us a sense of what recovery is going to look like in the hardest hit areas, especially in Lee County, it sounds like? Are we talking about, displacement for months and months on end? Are they going to be able to, are they going to have to send their kids to different schools? Are there schools that are just not going to be able to open for
Well, I think they're all still assessing that. I think that they're looking to see exactly how many people are going to be displaced. Clearly, you have some homes that were a total loss. There's no question about that. How many of those were rental homes? How many of those were permanent residents? I think people are still looking at how many of those were seasonal homes for seasonal residents. I think they're sorting all of that out. As more people come forward, they are keeping the shelters open in Lee County in case people have been displaced and they need a place to stay. Obviously, with FEMA offering individual assistance, people who are going to need housing assistance are going to be able to sign up and get that. So I think you'll have a better sense at that point. But my sense would be, just kind of looking at it, Sanibel had some serious destruction. And a lot of destruction on some of the underlying infrastructure, which is obviously important. I mean, they used to not have a bridge there. It would take like a ferry back and forth. Now you're back to kind of before that causeway was there. Fort Myers Beach, really, really serious damage. Some of the other places, when you're in a helicopter looking over, I see the homes are intact. I didn't see massive debris in some of the neighborhoods, but you also don't know how much flood damage that they had, because that water could have been 4 feet at this time yesterday, and then it subsided. And so that will all be things I think that people will determine as the days go on. But I think the folks in Lee, are prepared for some level of displacement. And I know Kevin has worked and FEMA has worked on some solutions, but I don't know that we know exactly how many. Kevin, do you want to add about what you're seeing so far?
So I agree with the governor wholeheartedly on the damage assessment so far. And again, this is aerial damage assessment, flying into the area, flying around, a little bit of the ground transportation that we were doing. I will just add to it, the next step in this recovery process is we will, I say we in support of the local counties will open up points of distribution where we will have food, water, potentially ice, depending on the situation. And I want to manage that expectation. Ice is usually given to help keep cold medications cold. So if that's the situation, you will be given ice. We will be providing tarps to those counties that have requested tarps so that they can do some emergency repairs. We are looking at turning on a program called the Blue Roof Program, which is slightly different than a tarp through FEMA. And I'm sure FEMA will action that over to the U.S. Army Corps. The next phase of that is going to be the disaster recovery centers that we will open up in the individual counties. This is a place where, again, as the governor has mentioned before, we will team up with the CFO's office to have insurance villages. We will team up with individuals like Department of Economic Opportunity to come in and help people with small business situations. We will team with the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, the Department of Health, vital records, ID cards, driver's licenses, and things like that have been lost. And the other state agency that's helped us out, there's a laundry list of Human Services, Department of Elder Affairs, Veterans Affairs, Children's and Families, and so on. So all of those will start to be set up over the next probably week or so. It just all depends on when we can get water restored to Lee County and the impacted area, and when we can get power restored to the impacted area. As those things happen, we'll move in very quickly with recovery services. I don't want to steal it from the governor, but the governor will be dispatching me to the area. We talked about this on the plane. I will probably be down in the area, in the most impacted area, for probably 30 days or more to ensure that the recovery is being handled effectively and remove any type of bureaucratic issues that might be going on.
Governor, you've been in frequent conversation with the White House during this devastating time for Florida. What does it look like when the president comes to town? What's your plan?
I don't know if he's announced he's coming or not. I know that the FEMA administrator, she will be here tomorrow, or if not today. And so we'll be working. I don't know if she's planning on traveling with us on all our itinerary, but she's welcome to do that. We're going to be back down in Southwest Florida, but we're also working to see other impacted areas throughout the state to go and potentially visit, meet with folks and see what they need. So, at the end of the day, I view this as something that you got folks that are in need, and local, federal, state, we have a responsibility to work together. I tell you, the way the locals have worked really hard. I mean, it's been really impressive to watch because this is not an easy thing to deal with. It's also not an easy thing when you have forecasts all over the map and you're not necessarily sure where it's going. Naples and Fort Myers were out of the cone 72 hours before the storm actually made landfall. And as that changed, they pivoted and they put their plans in action. So it's been really good. And obviously, Kevin and his team have done a great job. I mean, having so many things pre-positioned. But every request we've asked from FEMA has been approved. So we appreciate that, and we want to make sure.
So you would plan on seeing him while he's in town, no matter when it is.
Is he coming?
From what I understand, he will be here tomorrow.
Okay. Did you know that? Yeah, I don't know if that's the case with the FEMA administrators here. Maybe. So we'll see. But I mean, at the end of the day, we want all the support that we can get because we understand that there's a lot of need out there, and these are good communities. The thing is these are resilient folks. These are really, really good folks down there, and they will bounce back. But we just need to make sure that we can kind of pave the way for them. All right, we'll see you guys in the morning. Thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. We've been listening in to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, in addition to other emergency management officials in the state. Just want to kind of reset here. They spoke for some time. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, let's break down what we just heard from the Florida governor about where these, what they say, rapid damage assessments are, about where these search and rescue operations are. I want to be joined right now by former FEMA official Mark Naveau. Mark, you have been really guiding us through this storm, and we appreciate your insight. Let's talk, though, about what Florida Governor Ron DeSantis just said. I just want to give my takeaways because I thought the governor was quite bullish on how things stand right now about power generation, power restoration. He did kind of survey the damage via the air and the ground today. He talked about, the cell phone towers, the service being restored there, that they didn't really suffer a lot of major infrastructure damage. He talked also about how the roads are. He didn't see many, roads that were impassable. So, I don't want to say, good news coming from Governor DeSantis, but he sounded very, very optimistic about where things stand right now. Your view?
Yeah, I would agree with you. At this point in the process now, and we're a day into it, they put an awful lot of procedures and resources in place to be able to respond. Some of the things that I took away from it, I thought one of the interesting points was that the restaurants are opening up right away for some of the utility workers and electrical workers. I thought that was kind of neat to do. But, the rescue crews, the swift water rescue crews that we're talking about, it can be fire department or FEMA or National Guard. They're bringing more of those in. I think you're going to unfortunately see the loss of life start to grow as they get into those neighborhoods and they're able to assess individual homes. That's the sad part about it. Good news, they got fuel flowing out of the port of Tampa, which is important, 330,000 gallons going into Southwest Florida. They got ambulances coming. They're bringing in infant supplies, water, cell tower services, as you just mentioned, Andrew, which are temporary to allow people to continue, if not to call, certainly to text. Schools are going to open up. You're going to open up some insurance villages. They're talking about a blue roof program, which basically is putting tarps over people's roofs. So there's a lot of good news in there, but there's some challenging things too.
Yeah, and, and Mark, talking about the power restoration, still 2.6 million Floridians are without power. So far, about 200,000 residences have seen their power come back on, but there's a long way to go there. But then you also heard the governor and his emergency officials talk about the number of fatalities. One of the reporters to them posed that question, reported about 16 fatalities right now. But what the governor said, and they were hearing, was they are not seeing people who were, rode out this storm. They did not heed the evacuations, end up, deceased in their homes. As far as what they were hearing, what they were kind of getting relayed to them from those who have gone home to home to home to, knock on the door and figure that out. What did you make of that? Because you were essentially saying that, no, that death toll is going to rise in the next couple of days.
Well, it's going to rise. I think the question was more centered on mass casualty. In other words, are they going to find a large number of folks? And that doesn't appear to be the case. Number one, because of early evacuations. Number two, because of where the storm went to versus where it didn't go to. And so I think you're going to see the loss of life increase, but it's not going to be and any loss of life is sad. I don't want to minimize that by any means, but I don't think it's going to fit the category of what the reporter was asking about, and that's mass casualty.
Okay, so let's talk about the FEMA officials themselves. There was some reporting to suggest that the FEMA administrator, Criswell, will be in Florida tomorrow. And some of her deputies, those that you've worked with, I think that you know personally, were in the room right there when we were hearing from officials. And then, of course, President Biden today in D.C. at FEMA headquarters said he does intend to go to both Florida and Puerto Rico. That's not on the schedule just yet, at least according to, White House officials. But let's talk about, Mark, where this storm is going, because it's not over yet. We have up on the screen for our viewers the X-Rad weather system of where it is headed. It's still a hurricane. It's at a Category 1 strength, and it's headed for South Carolina and Georgia. And so now officials there in those states have to prepare for this. How are they doing that? Have you heard anything, Mark?
Yeah, we've got 5 state disaster declarations across the eastern seaboard because the hurricane's gone out into the ocean and it's starting to pick up intensity, and it's going to hit land in the next couple of days, targeting, Charleston and some of those areas. So they're worried about the downtown area of Charleston being damaged. So what they've done is they're moving some of the resources. Now, FEMA's got a number of swift water rescue teams. They're not all deployed out into Florida, and they do that on purpose to keep people or teams in reserve in case something else happens. That's what's taking place here. They're going to move some of those incident management assistance teams, some of the swift water rescue teams, some of the other specialized individuals up into that area in case there's a strike. And there's already planning going on with those governors and their emergency staff. If something hits there, what are they going to do?
Yeah, Mark, a lot of what we just heard from some of those officials, there's a lot of acronyms. It is quite complex, kind of what the avenues and the outlets and the resources that are available to Floridians who are in distress, who want to file these insurance claims, who want to see if they can get federal money to put their lives back together. Do you think that was kind of, presented in a, articulate format, easy to understand there?
Yeah, because we've tried to simplify that system. So and again, you got to have some sort of electricity or connectivity. And so what they're encouraging people to do is register through disasterassistance.org. And if you do that, that starts the process of getting you aid, whether it's loans or FEMA providing grant money, or you're getting money from the state of Florida. So that's a good place to start. They're talking about disaster recovery center setups, which are like neighborhood centers that they bring various agencies into so that people in those local neighborhoods can come there and be able to access whatever systems, ask questions, figure out, what their insurance needs are. You heard them talking about insurance villages, setting those up, same scenario. People can go down there and visit their insurance companies, figure out whatever benefits they may or may not have. The challenge to this is it's a flood issue for the most part, right? There are wind damage, but most of these homes are damaged because of water. And you've got to have flood insurance for that. And we know that's not a program that's very popular across the country. So fingers crossed, there are a lot of registrants that have availed themselves to the FEMA flood insurance program.
Mark, I also thought it was interesting how they were, advising and cautioning people who want to get a look at the extent of the damage, who might not even live in these affected areas, but they just want to see it up close because it really is almost incomprehensible. But no, that would snarl some of these efforts to get the power back on, to find people, to rescue people. So I thought, that was a really good word of warning there. Also, these drone enthusiasts and, the media is out there, they're with their drones too. Why the caution against that?
Well, you've got a number of helicopters that are flying above doing reconnaissance. You heard them talk a little bit about preliminary damage assessments, rapid PDAs. So they're trying to fly over and take a look at, and they're qualifying county by county for federal funding and grants. The president has already issued 100% funding for certain counties for debris cleanup. And the governor's interest in Florida as a whole is to try and get more of those counties qualified so that they can get reimbursement. And so the best way to do that is to do a damage assessment in those counties. And so you see them do recon to do those assessments. Plus you've got Coast Guard along with private aircraft that are in the rescue mode. And in this case, what the FAA does is shut down that entire airspace so there isn't any conflict, any accidents or anything of that nature. But then people start flying drones and it creates air traffic and danger for the aircraft that's already up there.
Mark, a lot of times these, recovery assessments and just kind of, facing the shock of what has just happened, a lot of times it can lead to, a breakdown in communication, a breakdown in order. I'm not seeing any of that right now, but what I thought was quite stirring today on one of the network morning shows, you had the, essentially, I believe, the sheriff of Lee County, which comprises Fort Myers. He was asked about, how many fatalities there might be. He said possibly in the hundreds. We're not seeing that just yet, but that just kind of puts into perspective what we might be seeing over the next couple of days.
Yeah, and to your point, that same sheriff was talking about having up to 2,000 calls of service backlog because they can't get officers out there or they don't have enough resources. And those might not be life-threatening emergencies, but you can see what happens to local responders when you don't have the infrastructure. You don't have the ability to communicate. You can't operate your cell phones. In some cases, you can't operate your radio. We heard one emergency operations center was without power. Their backup generator went out. You saw, I think it was Naples Fire Department, their fire stations were flooded.
Yeah.
All of these are impacts that come with this type of an incident.
Yeah. Mark, just lastly, because, I'm kind of operating in 12 to 24 hour segments here as we continue to cover this story. Obviously, it's kind of like that for those on the ground. What's the most important right now that you think needs to get done or we're going to see in the next 24 hours? What's top of your list?
Yeah, what you want to make sure is you have simultaneous tracks of effort, that you have rescue. And when I say rescue, that means pulling people out of their homes that want to leave those homes or on their rooftop. They may not necessarily be totally in danger, but they need to be relocated. So we want to continue to focus on that. You want to support Florida Power and Light in any way possible as they start to work through getting the power back up, whether that's clearing roads, providing lodging, whatever's necessary. You want to continue on those two tracks and think about within the next few days getting resources, and you're going to see this start to happen in points of distribution, which is really kind of like a school in a neighborhood that FEMA brings in supplies of water, ice. You heard him talk about that a little bit for medications, food, MREs, cots, infant supplies into those neighborhood pods. The National Guard will staff it, and they'll distribute that out to people while the infrastructure's out so they can continue to live in those areas that are livable.
Okay, Mark Naveau, as always, we appreciate your insight into this. Great stuff there, as I'm sure we'll be talking again in the next couple of days as the storm, and we'll see what it does to South Carolina, to Georgia. It's still a Category 1. Mark, thanks so much.
You're welcome, Andrew.
Okay, Ian, is really what is dominating the news right now, as so many are impacted by this storm. And we're going to continue with this here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to take a quick commercial break. If you didn't catch the latest update from Florida Governor DeSantis and other officials, we'll be playing that yet again in the later hours here on this Thursday. But when we come back, we do want to hear from officials from really the most impacted area that Ian swept over, and that, of course, is Lee County. It comprises, of course, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, and the like. We'll have that press conference in 2 minutes.
All right. So welcome everyone. Greet you all in the mighty name of Jesus. So yes, guys, this thing here did some damage here in Florida and portions of Florida. I mean, so far, because I'm actually watching the local news on my channel here at home, and there are 17 fatalities thus far. They just rescued 700 people. So they're still looking for more people. There are people that are in their house and can't get out. They're like on the porch because it's flooded. The water is up to the roof in some areas. Boats are flipped over. There's a main bridge that goes to Sanibel here in Florida. It's only one way in, one way out. That bridge has demolished. It's pretty much down in the water. So they have no way of coming out or going in unless by boat or air. So they're pretty much stuck there. So we just have to pray for them. And there's actually 2 bridges that's damaged here in Florida. So, I mean, we have to pray for these people, you know. We can't control the weather. You know, these things you can't determine what it's going to do. One day it's a 1, you wake up, it's a 2, or it's a 3, and you wake up, it's back to a tropical storm. We don't know. So that's why, I mean, even sometimes you prepare, your preparation may not even be enough, you know. So we just have to keep them in prayer, and it's going up towards the Carolinas now, like Georgia and the Carolinas. So we have to pray for them because it's going from a tropical storm up to a category 1. So we have to keep everybody in that path in prayer. So let's hope they get prepared. All right, the news is back on, so let me stop talking.
And here at Live Now, we are going to be keeping you informed about all the latest when it comes to this major storm. Remember, just earlier this morning, it had weakened to a tropical storm level. Now it's back at a category 1 level. And so many in Florida have kicked it into high gear, and this is what they do. They're well equipped for it. And we'll be showing you these incredible and stunning images of the damage, of the flooding. But one of those, really the most impacted area, was Lee County, Florida. That comprises Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and the like. And so they really bore the brunt of this. And we want to hear from their officials right now. They had a press conference this morning. Let's listen in.
We'd like to provide an update on response and recovery efforts to this latest storm, hurricane in Lee County, and all of its partner agencies are actively engaged in damage assessment today, along with search and rescue operations. Earlier today, the sheriff provided helicopters for us to fly in and around Lee County to do our very first aerial assessment to try and get a handle on the magnitude of the damage for Lee County. And I can tell you that in all these years, I've not seen damage to Lee County from a storm like this. When you take a look at the barrier islands, particularly from the air, it's very clear to see where the storm came on shore and then just churned with 140-mile-an-hour winds over the islands for some period of time. Probably the greatest amount of damage and decimation is at Fort Myers Beach. There's extensive damage to the buildings on Sanibel. And the Pine Island, the bridges to Pine Island have all failed. So right now you cannot get to Pine Island by vehicle. Likewise, there are 5 structural failures on the Sanibel Causeway. There are 5 sections of roadway that have just fallen away. We are working with those cities to make sure that we're getting proper resources to the islands. The sheriff will talk with you in just a moment about some of his rescue efforts that are underway. So as the day progresses, we have more and more resources coming to Fort Myers that include, the sheriff's office, of course, has been active since before the wind quit blowing. And we are working with the urban search and rescue teams from Florida, including fire, law enforcement, and EMS personnel. That all began before daylight. And the federal urban search and rescue teams from across the country have been deployed as well. And we anticipate they will be in Lee County sometime today and into the early hours tomorrow, and they are prepared to go to work right away. It's important to remember that Lee County government, along with the sheriff's office, executed a countywide curfew last night at 6 p.m. That curfew applies to not just unincorporated Lee County, but to all of the cities as well. It started at 6 o'clock last night, and it is in effect until it is changed by local government. All 15 shelters in Lee County remain open. As of yesterday, late in the day, there were only still about 4,000 people in those shelters. Given the amount of damage in the community, I think it's reasonable to expect that those shelters will begin to fill up a little more. We have space for about 40,000 people. So if you need sheltering and you can't make your way out of town to more comfortable accommodations, then you can come to these shelters. Our emergency management operation, along with other partners, are working to increase water, ice, and food supplies in Lee County. So over the next several days, you'll see more and more of semi-tractor trailers loaded with water and ice and food showing up in Lee County, and we will publicize to the best of our ability so that everyone will know where they can pick up water and those supplies. Infrastructure continues to be assessed. We know that the utility systems countywide, potable water and water treatment systems have failed. We are searching for the source of those failures today, and I would hope that we would have those resolved over the next day or so. But in the meantime, there's a boil water order countywide. Bridge inspections are across the county are underway as we speak. We're receiving help from the Florida Department of Transportation bridge engineers, along with our own engineers, and we hope to have all the bridges inspected, by sometime tomorrow. In the meantime, avoid them if you can. We cannot guarantee safety on all of them. And when you think about the failures that have taken place on the Sanibel Causeway and the bridges on the way to Pine Island, I would never have thought that those bridges would fail the way they have. So exercise an awful lot of caution. We are assessing more than 400 traffic signals in Lee County. Some of them at the intersections remain in place. Some of them even have electricity, but we have to inspect every one. Just about all of them require repair, and many are just simply missing. They were by the storm. They were torn from their places where they're attached in the intersections, and they're just gone. So over the next week or so, we'll be rebuilding and fixing all of those traffic signals. Lee County has a debris removal contractor. Some of you may recall after Hurricane Irma 5 years ago, there was hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of vegetative debris on the ground in Lee County. It doesn't appear to be as much this time, but we have a contractor in place who is in town today assessing the amount of debris that's going to have to be removed. And over the next day or so, you'll be seeing that contractor with very large tractor trailers picking up debris all over the county to make sure that the roadways continue to remain open. Our Department of Natural Resources and our Department of Transportation are continue to monitor the flooded areas and assessing infrastructures that assist with drainage of roadways and low-lying areas. You all probably know by now that we had a very significant storm surge. In some areas of the county, we saw about 10 feet of water come on shore. Some of those areas remain flooded, but most of that water is now receding. But we'll still see low-lying areas where it's going to take some time for that water to drain, and we will we'll be working in all those areas to facilitate that drainage of that water. Please do not bring your yard waste from the storms to the solid waste facilities right now. Take it to the curb, and we can pick it up there. Collection of trash, recycling, and yard waste is suspended today and Friday. And so we're asking you not to place those materials at the curbside just yet. Wait for those announcements through local media and social media and some of the other platforms that we will use to tell you when we'll start picking up solid waste again. Except the next bullet point says the solid waste garbage collection will resume Monday, October 3rd. So that decision's been made, and that was new for me. Last but not least, county is working with United Way and the collaboratory to provide people a way to make donations of cash and to help those in our community who have been impacted. Once details are worked out, we will post them on our website and Facebook page. So please stay tuned. We have a lot of local residents who have lost their homes. Yesterday, during one of our press conferences, I mentioned that it's just heartbreaking to see the amount of damage that's taken place in Lee County. Today, I got a really good look at it from the air, and the sheriff can speak to this because he has some firsthand knowledge of some of the devastation out there. Our community really looks like some of the disasters we see periodically throughout the year that have taken place in other parts of the country, whether it's the wildfires or floods or tornadoes. Our community looks like it's been hit by a very large tornado. So you have a lot of neighbors who are going to be in need of resources. Be patient, be kind, and if you're able to donate, please do. It's going to take a while for us to recover, but we are well organized, and I think situated as well as any county in the state of Florida might be. So please stay tuned, and you'll see in the coming days an awful lot of activity that will begin to help us get back to normal. Sheriff?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. DiGiorgio. Thanks for being here today. Obviously, we've been hit very hard. This morning, I got up in the helicopter. I know the county managers, county commissioners, we got up there and we got to see the eye in the sky and really get to see what this county looks like. And I can tell you from the heart, there are no words that can describe what we got to see. As you see some of the Barry Islands, they got hit very hard. But when you look at Fort Myers Beach in particular, there's no words to describe it. It does look like a large tornado did go through it. Homes that would stand tall, buildings are completely gone. When you look at the Bayside, which obviously was washed into the Gulf and back and forth, you have vehicles that are submerged, barely showing. Again, we haven't been able to get to that vehicle or those vehicles or those boats that are upside down inside the bay. This is a long-term commitment that we have here. Last night, special operations units and patrol deputies were out. We were all out in full force. And we're going to gain access to the people that called 911 in priority to make certain that we help everybody as quick as possible. I know that firsthand dozens of rescues were made in waist-high water where my family members and other responders were able to access people in need and safely get them out of their house and rescue. When we look at the storm, before the storm, during the storm, and after the storm, those three parts, now that the storm has passed us, what we ask, if you don't have to be out, don't be out. There's a reason for that. Although there's no more storm and it looks like the sun is shining, there are so many challenges And there are things that could truly hurt you in the water. There could be electricity. There can be downed power lines. We don't want you to be out and get hurt. And we also want you to stay clear so we can properly get out there and assess what we have. For those of you that are absolutely heartbroken over what you've lost, my heart goes out to you and your families. We're in this together. If you're worried about welfare checks and your loved ones, I know when you call our local hotline number, unfortunately, you get sometimes disconnected. There's such an influx of calls coming in. Just be patient and keep calling. We're going to get to you. We are going to help you. Teams are out there firsthand right now doing exactly what we need to do, and that is get out there and make things happen. Prioritizing calls. Okay, we had a couple thousand plus calls that we're holding. And what did we do? The second we could, we were out there answering those calls immediately with teams, both from the local, state, and federal side. Governor DeSantis has been a blessing. He has truly been in touch with us completely. I mean, I can't tell you numerous times every single day the First Ladies contact me to say, look, these are the assets that are coming to you. My fellow brothers and sisters in the Florida Sheriff's Association, sheriffs from North Florida, this state is great for a reason, and that is because this whole team comes together and we make things happen. And we're always going to protect and serve the great citizens of this county and this state. I also want to tell you that when you come to an intersection, we have down power lines. We're out of electricity. It's difficult to communicate. Please, please stop and take an extra minute to be certain when you cross an intersection that you don't just assume you got the right of way. Things are very difficult. There's major intersections that don't have any lights. There may be a stop sign on the pavement, but you got to stop and really pay attention if you are going to be out. Again, don't go out unless you really have to. Understand that we are in full force. There's the search, there's the rescue, and the recovery. And we are rescuing as we speak. I'm getting briefed continuously. My family members are out there working with everyone you see here. This county has come together. We are going to work together. Don't panic. We're coming to help. Help is on the way, and we are going to be there for you. This county at every level knows exactly what we need to do, and we're going to make it happen. And lastly, the message is going to be very clear when we talked about a curfew. It's our responsibility and our duty to protect those that cannot protect themselves right now. When you have homes that cannot be secured, when you have businesses that if they're not washed away, they can't be secured. So from a law enforcement perspective, anyone or any persons that think they're going to loot or do anything like that, I can tell you with certainty, we have deployed hundreds of deputies strategically along this county, everywhere you look. We have the latest and greatest technology at the Real-Time Intelligence Center. Don't do it in this county. Don't make that mistake. Because one thing we do have is vacancy at the jail. And I guarantee you, if you try to prey on one of our great residents, you will find yourself in that jail. Right now, let's all be kind to each other and let's all help each other, help your neighbors and help people and be kind. Let's get through this together and we will get back on our feet. I am more than confident. And I appreciate you very much. County Manager, want to take some questions?
Well, I'd like to introduce County Commissioner Brian Hammond, County Commissioner Ray Sandelli, and County Commissioner Mike Greenwell. Commissioner, did you have some comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, just briefly.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. County Manager. Thank you, Sheriff Marcino, and I apologize for the appearance. I was out like many of you this morning picking up debris, picking up what was left of my roof and many other people's roof. I got to tell you, my heart is with all of you. I am so confident in the team that we have assembled here with the Sheriff's Office and the federal and state partners who are coming to help us with our county manager and the team that we have here working for you in the Emergency Operations Center. Trust me, we know and we see and we feel every bit about as bad as it is out there. We see how bad it is out there. I got a chance to drive through my district on my way from North Cape Coral into the Emergency Operations Center today. I can tell you the mobile home villages did not fare very well. There is metal everywhere wrapped all over the trees. I saw shopping center, Merchants Crossing, where the fabric store The front of it just completely came off. I would say the biggest thing that I want you to remember if you're going to leave your house, and really we don't want you to leave your house right now, but is treat every intersection like a four-way stop sign. That is probably the most dangerous thing that I encountered right now is just driving. And so it is not a safe time to drive. So really don't do it if you don't have to. And we are here for you and we are going to rebuild. Absolutely. Commissioner Sandelli?
Thank you for being here. And I just wanted to reiterate two things. I did the same thing that many of us did this morning. I was up early, wanted to visit some of my constituents and see things as they unfolded. We come to work every day motivated to get things done, but patience right now is really key. Be thoughtful, be courteous. That second that you're going to try to go through an intersection stuff could be more costly than some of the other things that are happening. So please be patient, be kind. And if you see somebody that needs some help, that's what makes us the community that we are. We are, as the sheriff always says, we're a family. Let's keep it that way. Thanks.
I think the same thing. I think we all need to.
Okay, so there you have it. That was Lee County, Florida officials talking about what they woke up to today after Hurricane Ian made landfall in that county there just yesterday. I'm Andrew Kraft. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be hearing from so many Florida officials throughout the course of the night here, updating us on how these search and rescue operations are going, what these damage assessments look like. You've been looking at some of the damage and the destruction. It is really, it takes your breath away. There are no words to describe it, but we will do just that here. We're going to see you in 2 minutes. We're going to hear from yet more officials, including the mayor of Tampa, Florida. Tampa really spared the worst. Remember, that was in the crosshairs of Ian, but then it moved to the southeast ever so slightly, and Tampa was not in the direct bullseye of Ian, but it still got a lot of high winds and rain. We'll have an update from the mayor after the break.
All right, guys. So there we have it. Let me tell you, it's so devastating to see these people going through this. I mean, it's hard. I mean, just imagine you were in their shoes. I mean, water is up to the roofs of some of the houses. Boats are flipped over. People are in the water trying to escape this madness. And then the only bridge to go in and out of Sanibel has collapsed. I mean, there's no way for these people to come out of there unless it's by boat or air. So, I mean, it's very devastating. They have never seen nothing like this in their area. So, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to see that. I mean, we just have to pray for them, because they need like all the help right now. Some people, they lost everything. That is all they have is their house. Some people in mobile homes gone, cars gone. So far again, 17 people have lost their lives, and they're still out there trying to rescue people. 700 people have been rescued so far, and they're still searching houses because they feel that the numbers are going to rise. But all we can do is pray. It's terrible. I mean, I'm looking at one in the hospital where the third floor ICU section completely flooded. They had to remove them from the ICU to put them somewhere else that's dry. The roof is leaking, so they had to move them to another floor. The water just pouring all the way down second floor, all the way to the first floor. I mean, the water was so high on third floor. Imagine how it is downstairs. That's horrible. Nursing homes, they've just taken them out one at a time, taking these people out to try to bring them to safety. But, let's just stay prayed up, my people. I'm not going to keep you guys long tonight. I'm going to get another update. And after this next update, then I'll be closing out. So here we go.
And the destruction in South Florida, we are currently rallying our troops to send down south to help our neighbors out there, USAR teams, law enforcement, and Chief Tripp can talk a little bit more about that. We did overnight. We had trees down, as many of you know. I saw you out there reporting in the streets last night about some of the hazards, trees down, lines down. We had power outages, and was stated, Archie Collins is here to talk about the power outages and what TECO is doing to get everybody back up and running. The evacuation order was lifted at 9 o'clock this morning by Hillsborough County. And so everyone is free to come back into their residences. We are asking everyone to stay alert, stay vigilant, paying attention to any of the hazards that are out there still, any down line specifically, any standing water as well. Our push crews were out at dawn, making sure that our roadways were clear, taking any fallen trees out. We have TICO personnel on each of those push crews. So they're out there assessing if down lines are live and making sure that they're logging all of those so that those can be fixed as well. The wind, I believe, has died enough for us to get our drones up to be able to see any damage that we haven't been able to assess already. The airport, I've been on the phone with Joe Lapano from the airport, and they are looking to have the airport open again by 10 o'clock tomorrow. FAA requires they take down certain equipment, so they have to put that back up and make sure that all the runways are in good working order. Spoke with the captain of the port, who is the head of the Coast Guard, and they are currently ensuring there's no debris along the shipping channel. They have ships staged that have gas, different types of fuel, and perishable items that they're going to be bringing in, hopefully starting tomorrow as well. Spoke with Paul Anderson, the director of the port, and we have our fuel trucks moving, and they're going to have FHP escorts to wherever they need. As you know, they service all of Central Florida and may be servicing a lot of our southern neighbors as well, dependent on how much fuel they may need down there. So our crews, the city of Tampa, is on it. We are out there attending to all the needs of our community. What we're asking everyone right now is to keep an eye out for your neighbors. You know, if you want to be helpful, help your neighbors that are around you. We're asking that you don't go and get in your car and drive around, because we still do have some of these hazards out, and we have our first responders out and about in the community, but you can go and help your neighbors right now. So one of the things I would like to recognize First Lady Casey DeSantis for activating the Florida Disaster Fund. That is a great way for us to be able to help out those that were devastated by Hurricane Ian. And we can text disaster. The number is right around here somewhere. Text disaster to 20222 or go to the website www.floridadisasterfund.org. We know that our neighbors to the south would have come up here if that original prediction had held true. They would have been right here to help us. We need to be there to help them. So with that said, I am going to bring up Fire Chief Barbara Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Tripp here, Tampa Fire Rescue Emergency Manager for the City of Tampa. As the Mayor has stated, we have definitely been fortunate with Hurricane Ian. We did expect a lot of rain, and we know that our other cities to the east of us as well as south of us received a lot of rain. As Mayor stated, we are in the process of gathering our urban search and rescue team to help be deployed down to South Florida or wherever the state required the assistance to be needed. With that being said, here in Tampa, we are still reviewing and assessing the area as we still deal with emergencies. Tampa Fire Rescue is still responding to calls. I would like to thank the entire Tampa Fire Rescue team, as well as the entire city of Tampa, who's been working for the last 24 hours, day and night, to make sure the community is safe. We have responded to all requests for services and just want to make sure everyone knows that Tampa Fire Rescue is here to support you. With that being said, let's talk about some hazards that could have taken place. As Mayor talked about the down power lines. You do not know if that line is alive or if it doesn't have any power to it. please do not take a chance. If you see wires down, do not try and go and move them. Make sure that you contact TICO with the numbers that's been given to you, as well as TICO will talk today to assist you with resources that will be available to you. But make sure you do not touch the wires, as well as standing water. Make sure you are definitely being safe with going into puddles that you cannot see the ground on. Let's talk about generators. We know some families are without power at the moment, which TICO is definitely working very hard to make sure we get that power up. But if you have a generator at your home, make sure that you abide by the rules for operating that generator. If you need an assistance, go to tampa.gov/hurricane for some safety information concerning generators. Once again, please be safe out there, and thank you. We will now bring up the police chief.
Good morning, everybody. Mary O'Connor, Tampa Police Chief, here with you. I think the message here is safety, safety, safety. We want our residents, as they're returning home from evacuations or as they are venturing out, to please take it slow. Please be safe. Please be cognizant of your surroundings. You know, particularly with the down power lines and the down trees, obviously you have to, you know, be careful as you're going around those obstacles. Let's just speak just for a minute about any traffic intersections that may be out. If you come across a traffic intersection that does not have power to the light, you have to treat that as a four-way stop. Okay, obviously, you know, without the power being on, it could be very hazardous without people knowing which way to go when they come across a major intersection. And we do have some major intersections out. We do have Tampa PD out there deployed, helping you and directing traffic. However, when you're coming up to the intersection, stop, make sure everyone around you is safe, and then proceed with caution. But most importantly, I think it's you know, it's best practice to just stay off the roads if you don't have to be out until we know that, you know, that everything is all clear. The city has established phone lines for down trees and down power lines. We ask that you please keep 911 reserved for true emergencies and instead call 1-833-TPA-INFO. That's 1-833-872-4636 to report down trees and down power lines. And like Mayor Castor mentioned, we are making our plans, finalizing our plans to deploy Tampa PD down to our south to help with rescue and recovery efforts. Thanks, everybody.
All right. As you guys have heard me say at just about every briefing, we have great collaboration on the local, regional, state, and federal level dealing with these storms. And one of those partners that is always there for us actually has individuals embedded in our EOC 24/7 is TICO. So Archie Collins is here to talk about the electricity outages and what TICO is doing to bring everybody back up with power. Archie.
Thank you, Mayor Castor. Thank you, everyone. So for those who don't know who I am Archie Collins. I am the president and CEO of TICO, Tampa Electric. And just before I kind of get into what we're dealing with currently, just to give you a sense of the company, we serve customers across Hillsborough County, Polk County, Pasco County. We serve 815,000 customers. At the peak of the storm, you know, we certainly experienced some pretty heavy Category 1 hurricane force winds, especially out to the eastern portion of our service territory, and a significant amount of rain. Before I go any further, though, I do want to I'm going to repeat something that I think I've already heard from Chief Tripp, Chief O'Connor, and Mayor Castor, which is as a company at Tampa Electric, while we're disappointed that we have I think we're down to about 279,000 of our customers currently without power. We feel very grateful. It was just as recently as 48 hours ago that the forecasted track for Ian was intended or forecasted to make landfall due west of us or even farther to the north, which would have resulted in a very significant storm surge in the Tampa Bay area. And that surge was very concerning for us. Flooding waters and a storm surge don't necessarily mix with electricity. And so I think our prayers in this area certainly were answered. Unfortunately, when you're wishing a hurricane away from your own area, you may be inadvertently wishing it on somebody else. And so our thoughts are certainly with the citizens down in the Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Venice area, where you see the devastating pictures of the storm surge that they're dealing with this morning. And I know they're in very, very good hands with FPL, who are very skilled at this sort of hurricane restoration. For Tampa Electric, the hurricane planning and recovery process, quite frankly, is a year-round exercise. Our emergency management team is a small group, but the emergency management process, quite frankly, is a machine. And we've been working to prepare for Ian in earnest for about the last 7 or 8 days. And a lot of work has come to this point to get us where we've got the number of resources that we currently have ready to assist us. I think it was Chief O'Connor said safety 3 times, safety, safety, safety. And I'm going to say the exact same thing. For us, the threat of downed power lines in the aftermath of a hurricane is a real threat. As you're traveling through a hurricane, people tend to stay indoors. And once the winds settle down, everybody wants to come out and look around, and they want to begin the process of clearing debris and removing tree limbs. And I can't implore all of you enough to be vigilant and to stay away from down power lines. You do not know if those lines are energized. Our teams are now out today conducting damage assessments, and we'll be able to identify which lines are energized and get those circuits taken out of service and made safe. But in the interim, please, everybody stay away from anything that's down on the ground. From a resource perspective, we have, just no different than our fellow utilities at Duke and FPL, as we plan for an event like this, we lean on all of the other utilities across the United States. And we were fortunate enough to be able to secure roughly 3,000 resources that have been brought into our service territory. They rode through the hurricane in a safe location. And now this morning, they are going through the process of being oriented and getting out and hitting the ground running. To put that into perspective, what does that mean? Our regular complement of line workers at TECO is 162. So when you hear that there are 3,000 who are coming in from Indiana and Oklahoma and Texas and many of the other states, it just gives you some perspective on the scale of the resources that are brought to bear so that we can, as quickly and as safely and as efficiently as we can, get everybody's power back. We know how inconvenient it is when the power is out. And as I said, we're around 279,000 customers without power right now.
Okay, so we were listening in there to the city of Tampa, Florida officials from law enforcement, the mayor, and others discuss all the after effects of Hurricane Ian as it made its way near there, but not a direct hit. Of course, Tampa was, somewhat spared by the onslaught of Ian. It, veered to the southeast as it made landfall, but projections had said that Tampa was really going to be in the bullseye direct hit, and it was not. Right now, though, we want to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, though, we'll be talking about how the hurricane has impacted your pets, as so many animal shelters have to deal with this. That is, of course, a very, very important angle to the story. We'll have it from Florida in 2 minutes.
All right. So thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you all. I'm trying to do my best to keep you guys up to date with the news. Sister Lorna, thank you very much for the super sticker. May the Lord bless and keep you, and may your store basket never ever run dry in the mighty name of Jesus. So yes, I'm gonna go ahead and close out now. Again, I appreciate you all. Have a blessed, safe, wonderful evening, and remember, let's keep the West Coast of Florida in the prayers. You know, a lot of them are going through some things right now, hard times for them, lost their homes. 17 people lost their lives. You know, they're still going out there doing a search and rescue right now. 700 have been rescued thus far, and they're still out there doing search and rescue. So let's just keep them in your prayers. And as it approaches the Carolinas, let's keep the Carolinas in your prayer as well. So again, thank you guys. God bless you. God bless you, Sister Lorna Harvey. Everyone that's in, DJ Giovanni, my mom evangelist, Mavina Thomas, everybody that came in, that stuck in, that dropped in, all those on my Facebook page. I'm not able to reply. Excuse me. My replies won't come over there, so that's why I have to put them on the screen, because I don't know why, for some reason, StreamYard is not picking them up. But I greet everybody over there on Facebook, DJ Christology, Sister Sharon Savage, everyone that's over there on Facebook, silent listeners, passerbys, those that will be watching thereafter. Stay safe, and God bless you all. Much love and blessings every time. And also, as a reminder, my mom, Evangelist Malvina Thomas, will be on tomorrow, guys. So just kindly come on over there, support her. Wherever you listen to me from now, she will be there live tomorrow. Also on HOD Radio Word Network as well. So 4 o'clock p.m. Jamaica time, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock p.m. UK and Nigeria, and midnight Kenya and Uganda. So again, God bless you all. Have a blessed, safe, wonderful evening. Much love and blessings every time. It's your girl, Sister Izzy on the beat, man. God bless you all. You're locked in listening to Sister Izzy on the Beat, man. Join me each and every Tuesday, 1 o'clock p.m. Caribbean time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock UK and Nigeria, via YouTube and Facebook at Sis Izzy Thomas. See you there.